Superman. An icon of hope for millions. And a paragon of good in a world that has become devoid of it. And that is why we get thumbnails like that. Let's dive in.
I know the plot of the new Superman all from just its first teaser, and better yet, I know the plot of the sequel they haven't even announced yet.
See, now that's some bullshit.
Okay, first off, no. You cannot accurately depict the plot of a movie based on one teaser trailer with your main character lying in a super crater.
He needs some milk!
Second of all, there is no sequel yet. It was never stated in the Chapter 1 reveal of the DCU that they had any plans for Superman 2 yet. Not to mention, it's been stated that unlike the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the DCU is focused on making their projects around story first instead of profit.
Oh, I'm hella excited for this movie. Like, planning on doing this theory on Superman since the movie was announced. We had a script all the way back in like December of 2023 before we had like any details about the movie. And that script predicted that Krypto was going to be in this movie before like any of that information came out.
Except Krypto wasn't part of James Gunn's original plan. See, Mr. Gunn was inspired to add Krypto to the film after adopting his own dog named Azu. And you don't even need to take my word for it, as this script change was confirmed via an interview with The Hollywood Reporter.
This movie has a lot of pressure on its shoulders. Not only does DC need a massive win after the disasters that were The Flash and Joker 2, but along with Marvel's Fantastic Four, it has people wondering if it can revive the genre, now that people are calling the 2020s the end of the superhero era.
Oi, 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 oi. Can we please just stop spreading that nonsense around? Yes, the current multiverse saga of the MCU hasn't been as well received as the Infinity Saga, but that doesn't mean it's been all bad, you know. What about Guardians Volume 3, another movie by James Gunn? Proof that Marvel movies can indeed make you cry. Or Deadpool and Wolverine, a movie that came out last year and was a global phenomenon for months. And don't pretend like you weren't there for that. I still have that Madonna song in my head after seeing that one. And if we look outside of the films real quick, we have stuff like Creature Commandos, Marvel Rivals. Hell, even that Blue Beetle movie deserves more street cred. So can we please cease this super slander already?
Well, just from a surface level, we know this is not an origin story for Superman. Well, we can also tell exactly when this movie takes place. A newspaper from the set is dated Monday, May 19th, and 2025 is a year that has May 19th fall on a Monday.
I mean, shouldn't that part go without saying? The movie is coming out in 2025 after all.
Likewise, this story exists pretty far into the DCU. From both Creature Commandos and the parts of Peacemaker that are still canon, we know that superpowers have been around for a long time in this universe. Strangely, we also know that a lot of these superhumans seem to work for billionaires. Both the Engineer and Ultraman/Ulysses are henchmen for Lex Luthor, while Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific all wear matching uniforms with the logos of billionaire Maxwell Lord on them.
Well, you are sort of right here, but I wouldn't call them anything like pro athletes. It's true that Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific do indeed seem to be working for Maxwell Lord. However, this is something that's quite accurate to the source material. See, in the comics, Maxwell Lord is indeed a businessman. However, he's one of those rare few millionaires who isn't a power-hungry menace to everyone around him. He has general good intentions for sponsoring superheroes, though he's not afraid to get shady at times. Or, you know, at least at first. They did a lot of retconning, made him a full-blown villain, and gave him psychic powers. Don't ask. But ultimately, this seems to imply they're bringing back the classic Maxwell, which is good because from what I gathered, the misguided good guy angle works so much better in my opinion. Now, as for Lex's crew, I wouldn't exactly call them heroes. Yes, the Engineer is part of a group called the Authorities, and they are superheroes. In the same way Invincible or the Seven are superheroes, so not really. Yeah, I said it, so what? As for Ultraman, no, not that one, is simply an evil version of Superman from an alternate Earth, where the good guys are bad and the bad guys are good. So it makes sense that Lex Luthor of all people would get them to aid him in whatever his evil scheme is for the movie.
We can learn a lot more about the themes of the story being told here if we look at what inspired this film. Gunn has said that this version of Superman is, quote, the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way.
Now, let's break down what that line actually means. Truth and justice should be obvious ones. Truthful, as in to do actions you honestly feel are right or to speak up against lies. And justice means to deliver due consequence or to treat people as they are deserved. However, I feel like that last one, the true American way, is one that people need to pay more attention to now more than ever.
Philosophically, what does Superman represent to people?
A friend. And that's what people really need most.
They don't need a strong arm, one-man vigilante force. They need a friend. Cities. And America was founded on the virtues of a helping hand, of going 5 miles to lend your neighbor a donkey or whatever he needed. And I think that is that kind of virtue that's at the bottom. That's the heart of Superman.
That right there. That is the Superman James Gunn is talking about. And to my shock, it seems like film theory actually agrees with this. They even researched the actual source material and not just stop at a list of titles.
And before we move on, another story that really stuck out to me here was Kingdom Come, all about an older Superman coming out of retirement into a world full of violent, reckless heroes, bringing hope and morality back to a cynical world.
Oh my god, they even point out the potential theme of legacy all these projects have in common. Alright Lee, I'll admit I was skeptical, but at the very least, I am convinced now that you are a genuine Superman fan.
Perhaps I treated you too harshly.
Now, let's see what your next point is.
So this is Brainiac, one of the oldest Superman villains and pretty much his nemesis outside of Lex Luthor. First off, there's the giant energy orb floating behind Lois and Clark in the first teaser image and trailer that is the same color scheme as Brainiac.
Ah yes, the pretty glowing ball thing in the sky. Yeah, even I don't know what that thing is. But as I said before, James Gunn isn't even thinking about Superman 2 yet. And I honestly doubt Brainiac will make a post-credits scene appearance in this movie, because it's already overstuffed with so many characters. And I mean characters with actual points and purpose in the story, not just blink and you'll miss it cameos. Hello!
This Superman is one that's wrestling with his legacy, his Kryptonian heritage versus his human upbringing. What better way to make that into something tangible for this story? Here's a villain with the knowledge Clark wants, but he's also a danger for his new home.
I think Clark should already know a good deal about his Kryptonian heritage at the start of the film though. We've already seen in a later sneak peek he's gonna have these cool robot servants, and in both the original Superman movie and Superman the Animated Series, which Lee has pointed out are inspirations for this film, Clark is already fully aware of his Kryptonian heritage. He even has a complete collection of Kryptonian history that Lego Batman so carelessly destroyed.
My son, these irreplaceable crystals contain all my knowledge, which I now pass on to you.
Darn it, it's gotta be one of these. Is this the one?
Now I'm gonna speedrun these next two parts, as they're essentially the actual theory of the movie's plot and the plot of the sequel that doesn't exist yet.
It's May of 2025. Clark Kent has been working at the Daily Planet for a while now with other reporters like Lois Lane, all while moonlighting as Superman. But he's still very much the new kid on the block. Hero teams are often funded by corporations or billionaires like Maxwell Lord, or used by the government for secret missions as seen in Creature Commandos and the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, except, the DC heroes who would rather be caught dead than work for them. Like Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, who has his own kingdom and doesn't need backing from anyone, Deadman, a literal spirit and thus can't accept a paycheck, Green Arrow, a vigilante who's sworn to fight against the corrupting influence of capitalism as a modern-day Robin Hood, and of course the most memorable member of the Justice League, Black Vulcan.
Go, Lisa!
Superman? He's different. He seems to have more power than these other heroes, but he's nothing like them. He knows his parents found him in a spaceship, and he's discovered the Fortress of Solitude. So he knows he's an alien and maybe a bit about Krypton, but that's about it. But that changes when he discovers an alien supercomputer intelligence. Brainiac promises Clark knowledge about his past and his people. But Clark either is having trouble getting to that knowledge, or maybe he doesn't like what Brainiac has to say. But that alien heritage has unknowingly earned Clark a lot of enemies, the biggest of which is Lex Luthor.
Why would Lex assume he's an alien? I mean, yeah, he's a smart guy, but he's lived in a world where metas have been a thing for years. Superman can't truly stand out that much by comparison, right?
Either way, he uses it as an opportunity to break into the Fortress of Solitude with his henchman, the Engineer and Ultraman/Ulysses, and end up stealing Brainiac as proof that Superman is an alien. And this is not going to turn out well for Lex, as he's tricked by Brainiac, who begins to accumulate knowledge and power for himself.
Well, I admit that sounds like an interesting development. Gunn did say that Lex was going to be the main bad guy for this movie, so I don't think it would be wise for another villain to steal his spotlight in the third act. Also, what about Metamorpho? Wasn't he also announced for this movie?
All of this information that we've laid out here also gives us a good idea of where Superman's going after this movie. See, The Authority was originally a superhero team published by an independent company with the premise of, what if the Justice League were bad? That is, what's so funny about truth justice in the American way. This was later adapted into an animated movie, Superman vs. the Elite. This story is all about Superman coming into conflict with a new group of edgy heroes called the Elite, led by the telekinetic Manchester Black.
Again, really want to compliment your research on this one. It almost makes me feel sad to debunk it. Almost. But none of that fanboy info is nearly as big as the biggest point of this video. James Gunn wrote Scooby-Doo.
Scooby? Scooby?
Okay, that's not actually important for the debunk, I just thought that fact was hilarious. But there you have it. Why, despite my earlier skepticism for this theory/pitch meeting, I actually enjoyed this theory while debunking it. My only real critique outside of the whole AI will kill us all angle that the theories channel seems to be going for would be the video's thumbnail. You know, the one I keep showing you out of frustration. Maybe we could, change it to reflect the video's attitude better. But other than that, thank you for watching and be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. Theory debunked.